Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday stream. Today is Saturday, November 1st. Welcome. How are you doing? My name is Angela. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm a front-end developer and a software engineer, and on this channel, we practice HTML, vanilla CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. No frameworks, no libraries. We don't have anything against either of those things. We just like to practice the basics. How are you doing? How's it going? We are having a very rainy, cool Saturday here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm here. Just bring me the dreary, the cool, the cozy. I want all of the cozy vibes. Although I do like a good, crisp, dry, sunny day as well. Mostly I'm just happy that the temperature has changed. It is officially sweater weather. So here we are. I'm in a good mood. How is everybody doing? Terry Murray is here. Good morning, Terry. Welcome. So happy to see you today. Oh, I'm going to wait for a few more people to roll in because I do have something that I want to talk about, but there isn't very many people here, which is fine. It's totally fine. But I want to wait until everybody gets here. So whomever those people are. And Malik Robinson is here. Hello, Malik. Malik is our mod, friend of the channel. Everybody's a friend of the channel, but we love Malik. We love Malik. We love Terry too. We love everybody. Listen, if you're here for front-end development, you're welcome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about I have something else that I want to talk about. But before I do that, I want to let people know what we're starting. We are starting a new project. We finished a project last week, which I think actually I would like to show you what the final product was. We did a black background last weekend. And I changed it to navy, and I think it just made all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. The navy looks a lot better. The black wasn't awful, but the navy was better. So, and Malik is saying pastetree.com. We are up and running. Okay, let's look. They grow up so fast. Pastetree.com. Malik, well done. Everybody in the chat, can we congratulate Malik? I'm assuming Malik, I think I'm going to make the safe assumption that you followed the tutorial that I gave you. I know you did because we were chatting last night, and I have more to talk about related to the experience you had last night. Malik did the tutorial. He did the DigitalOcean droplet, bought a domain name, configured the DNS settings. Malik, in a couple of words, if you are inclined to do so, what do you think? What is your experience? Because when I first told you several weeks ago, when you told me about Pastetree, the first thing I asked you is, oh, did you get a domain name? Are you going to deploy it? And your response was, oh, no. That is far too complicated for me. And in my mind, I was like, oh, no, it absolutely is not. And we need to get you going on this. That was one of the motivators for me in finally doing deployment content because I've been saying for a year I want to include deployment content and I just wasn't doing it. So that conversation that we had, that was what finally motivated me to start working on deployment content. Yes, pat yourself on the back, have a snack, treat yourself to a whatever. Well done, because it is advanced. It's not beyond what you can do. You can absolutely handle it, but it is complex. So I don't mean to say that it's not complex or that it won't be difficult or that you won't find challenges, because I know, Malik, that you had some, and we're going to talk about that next. But it is complex, but it is not beyond your capabilities. Anybody watching right here, if you're thinking that this is something you can't do, you're wrong. You can. The difference between you and me and Malik is that you just haven't figured out how to do it yet. That's it. You can do it though. Trust me. Yes, thank you. It is complex, but it is easier than you think. So, okay, with that being said, I want to pull up the GitHub repository and just talk about something in these instructions. And these have had a couple of updates also since we did the tutorial. Oh, and just a real quick side note about last Sunday and actually doing this during the live. I really wasn't sure if that was something I should be taking on. And a couple things popped up that I was like, oh, I don't think I want people in a live stream to see that. But luckily, not that many people watch my live streams. So it was not a big deal. And also, it really helped me button down a process and figure out exactly what I can and can't do in a live. And that was an awesome experience for me because I know now what I can do differently, and we will absolutely be including deployment in every single project because we finish projects on this channel at an astounding rate. We're finishing new projects every 2 to 4 weeks here, which is incredible, the amount that I've gotten done in the last year. And I want all of that to have a deployment component for my portfolio and for you all to see me continuously doing deployment every week. So you will want to do deployment on all of your projects. That's the whole point of this, is to motivate you, and then we do it together. Okay, that being said, there is one step right here, rsync. Malik very kindly notified me last night that rsync doesn't work on a Windows machine natively. There is software that you can install to do rsync, and I didn't know that. So out of this entire tutorial, rsync doesn't exactly work this way on a Windows machine. I'm on a Mac. I've been on a Mac for 10 years, and I didn't learn rsync until several months after I bought my first Mac. And for the last 10 years, I've been using rsync. I had no idea it doesn't work on Windows. So Malik, if you don't mind letting people know what it is that the solution that you finally came up with in the chat, I would appreciate that. I am going to create an alternate version of this tutorial specifically for Windows, and I'm going to show people how to use something called FileZilla, which is free software for FTP. And because here's the thing, 70% of people are on Windows machines. And I need my content to be for everything, for both Windows, Linux, Mac. So Mac is sort of like built off of Linux, right? So I need tutorials that work for both people. So again, having Malik be like my Windows tester, my unofficial / official Windows tester for some of these tutorials is invaluable, that I get that information from him, and that he is he's signing up using my link upon my advice, following my instructions. I need to listen to his feedback. And I was really upset last night when I found out that I did something that wasn't going to work on Windows and I had no idea. I just thought, oh my God, Angela, you're a freaking amateur. So anyways, but we're moving forward. So I'm going to make another tutorial, and instead of rsync, I'm going to do FileZilla because I need to make sure that this works for everybody. And this was, a message to me like, hey, Angela, you need to make sure that you're covering all your bases. So, and Malik says, the only problem I had was rsync. I had to redo SSH permissions on the Ubuntu terminal. Everything else, I followed the tutorial. That's excellent. So I think you also did WSL, right? Am I right that WSL? So on Windows, there's something called WSL. And the Windows subsystem for Linux is a Windows feature that lets you run a Linux environment directly on Windows, including Linux command line tools, utilities, and applications. It allows developers to use both Windows and Linux simultaneously, run Linux tool change, and access Linux applications from the Windows desktop. So this is what he finally got installed and used to run rsync. I'm not on Windows. I suppose I could do like a virtual machine or something like that. Honestly, it's easier for me to tell people about WSL and actually demo FileZilla. So that's what I'm going to do. So expect another tutorial in the next 7 to 10 days. So if you are one of the people who followed my tutorial, because it's part of the project video, it's part of the live stream, and it is a dedicated video, and you got all the way through that and figured out that rsync wasn't going to work on Windows, I mean, I apologize. I am so sorry that that happened. Luckily, those videos don't get that much view. I mean, deployment content does well on YouTube as a long game. Those aren't viral videos, and they've only been out for a few days. And I updated the titles, and I put in some pinned comments and added extra comments to my description. So hopefully people see that. Nobody has contacted me or let me know, other than Malik, that rsync didn't work for him. And there is a new tutorial coming. So I apologize to anybody who had that experience. And I'm so, so grateful that Malik went through this process, got the server set up, and gave me his feedback. He says you have to have visualization enabled for your CPU for a virtual machine to work for those on Windows. And Illusion says layer 7. I'm not sure what layer 7 is in reference to. But welcome, Illusion. We're happy to have you. If you can expand on that thought, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure what that means, but thank you for being here. Okay, so with that being said, so despite the hiccup, I'm still thrilled that we are doing deployment content on this channel, and we are absolutely, every single project is going to have a deployment component moving forward, and I am so excited about that. I love that I have a Windows tester who follows some of my tutorials. I'm glad that everything else worked, and well done, bravo for pivoting and finding a solution and following through. I mean, that just speaks, like, let's just take a step back and point out the fact that development is complex. I mean, there's this whole component where you have to actually like build the thing, the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. And then there's this whole deployment component where you have to like get it live, and they're completely independent of each other. And you are, in your career, I'm here to tell you that you will spend as much time on deployment as you will sometimes on development, especially in the early days when you're first learning it. But it is so important. And Malik, you tell me. Oh, he says here, I was awake until 3 a.m. upset that I couldn't figure it out. A good night's sleep helped my brain. Yeah. But I love the determination and the grit. Oh, that was my point. I got off track. I love seeing new developers with the determination and the grit and the feeling like that you don't want to be beat. Like, it is not an option to not be able to figure it out and finish. That is such an invaluable skill. It's such a good attitude to have, and I am so, so proud of you for figuring it out and getting it deployed. Well done. I'm just so pleased. You have no idea how happy it makes me. So well done, my friend, and thank you for the feedback. And yeah, I'm just very happy. So an Illusion is smiling. Thank you, Illusion. Thank you. We love having you. We love having all of you. So, okay. So yeah, I would say in the next 7 to 10 days, expect another deployment video. using this method, but we're going to swap in FTP, and that will be for the Windows users out there. I can't do a WSL tutorial, but I can mention it. And FTP is going to be a good alternate solution if you don't have rsync. And then for those who want to figure out WSL, that's obviously great. I would encourage you to do that. So well done, Malik. So I would love, oh, good. Well, I'm glad I appreciate you. We appreciate each other. So I want to know from you, Malik, do you remember the conversation we had several weeks ago where you were like, no, that's way too complicated for me? Like, how has your attitude shifted about deployment now? Like, how do you think about it differently? Is it as impactful for you as it was for me, is what I would like to know. So I will let you think about that. So, okay, good. So we have a new project. We're starting a new project. I dug deep into the archive and I found a mock-up that I wanted to build, and it's from it's another mock-up that I got on Theme Forest. I actually think that I bought this rather recently, but it's also old. I want to say it's from maybe 2015, 2016. And I have two versions of it here. I'm using Affinity Photo, and I can put PSDs in Affinity Photo. They work just fine. And I've noticed on a lot of these PSDs, especially the older ones, they use Font Awesome or they use icon fonts. And I do have updated versions of Font Awesome, but we still don't get all of the icons. So I have the PSD here just opened in preview as well. I don't think we're going to build every single aspect of this. But we're going to build most of it. I'm not going to call mine ink, so I'm going to do a little bit different branding, but I haven't thought of anything yet. An Illusion says release apps. So I think you're happy seeing deployment content as well. Release and deployment, I try to focus and work on that as a tier junior front-end developer. Good. I want more junior. I have met a number of junior developers who don't think deployment is important and who sort of have the attitude that there are people on the team that handle that. And I think that that is outrageous, that you aren't at least curious about how that's done. How do you, especially as somebody who does front end, you're building for the browser. How are you not at least curious about how to buy a domain, configure your domain settings, set up a hosting account and point your domain to deploy your site? You build for the browser and you're not even curious about that? That makes no sense to me. Yet there are front-end developers out there who are just like, nah, there are people who do that. I don't get that at all. So, and Malik says, yes, I thought DNS was a lot more complex, but it turned out to be like 5% of the work I had to do, lol. I am very happy with the process and I will definitely start doing more deployment in the future. Well done. Well, you're in luck because you don't need a fresh domain name every time you deploy a project. There's lots of ways to deploy. You also don't need a new droplet every time you deploy a project or you have a new domain name. I have a list of deployment content that we're going to work through in 2026 that includes subdomains. It includes adding additional domains to existing droplets. So we're going to add new virtual hosts to the droplet. We're going to deploy to like just a directory of an existing domain, and we're going to write GitHub actions so we can push to our GitHub repository and then deploy to a server. So I have a full list of things that we're going to work through, and for every project that we complete in the weekend streams, there's going to be a component that is for deployment that will cover all of those different scenarios. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. 2026 is going to be a lot of fun. Oh, and here's my final thought on deployment. I used to be able to do this in my sleep, like 10 years ago when I first learned it. And I did it all the time for my client sites when I was freelancing full time and I had a lot of clients. I could do it in my sleep. I had a couple of notes, but mostly I knew exactly what to do, and I don't do it as often anymore. I didn't have to do it at work. Like, I was part of the conversations for like front end best practices and like how we get things deployed to prod and stuff like that. But I didn't set up the servers at St. Thomas. And yes, I have clients and I do set up, like I set up a fresh droplet once a year for all of my clients. But I don't do it now as often as I used to, and I was really out of practice. So last weekend and the work that I did leading up to last weekend to write new comprehensive documentation was just an awesome experience for me. It was frustrating and awesome. Frustrating in the moment, awesome after the fact. So, and then of course getting feedback from you guys is amazing. So, okay, Angela, focus. Oh, and then one more tiny little thing. If you haven't liked the stream yet, do me a favor and give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We would love to have you. We hang out here every weekend. We do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now we're doing a bit of deployment, and we just like to hang out and have fun. So, okay. So with that being said, we're going to start working on the HTML today for this project. I've had my eyes on this for a couple of weeks. You can tell that a couple of months. You can tell that this is pretty old because one of the social media icons is Google+. You may not even know what Google+ is. That's how old that is. And of course, latest tweets, although that's kind of, that's only been a couple of years since it turned to X. So we'll find alternatives here for some of this. This isn't going to be a complete website. So even though I'm going to do the front end work for search and things like that, I'll do this top banner. Those pages aren't actually going to exist. I don't really have a desire to do like a full build because it would take way too long. I'm trying to do things that can get done in 2 to 4 weeks. This is definitely going to be a 4-week project. So, and we have a few things going on here. So we have a little slider, we have a video, and we have something specific to audio. And I do want to do that. I am seriously thinking about making a JSON file. So it wouldn't be an official like third-party API. I'm not going to build out like a backend or a database. But I am thinking about just making like a JSON file for a little like local database and doing load more. But I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that. Most of my projects are very much focused on the UI, and I find myself, I think it's less interesting, the JavaScript part of it, unless it's like DOM manipulation or specific to the UI. It's just not interesting to me. I don't enjoy it. So even though I build those things in the UI, I don't always do the JavaScript work to go along with it. That's just me. I know I need to have a better attitude about that, but I don't know. This is just how I feel. I am not going to stuff this top banner with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 social media links. So I'm going to exclude those. But I do quite like these social media links down here at the bottom. I will probably do Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. We could do X and like a GitHub. Yeah. And then this would be like sort of a pseudo faux Instagram feed. Again, I'm just going to put in static images. Although, I mean, I know that if I was going to do some more like API JavaScripty type stuff, I should build an Express app with an API key for Instagram. I have to think about if I want to do that for this project. It just makes me tired thinking about it. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how quick this goes. I think we're going to have our hands full with a slider of video and audio, honestly. That's the thing that makes me think that no, I'm probably not going to do like a local JSON file and this will just be static. So, because I think we'll have our hands full with that. So, with that being said, we need some SVGs. I haven't gathered our SVGs yet. So let's do that. So we need arrows, we need like a play button, and we need like headphones for audio. So I'm going to go to good old Ionicons. Arrow. Usually I try to do all these things ahead of time and I just didn't get to it. I'm working on another thing. I was even up early this morning filming my next thing, which is going to be out on Monday, which I'm pretty excited about. So hopefully you can watch that on Monday when it comes out. Oh, Nightbot is asleep at the wheel. Oh, it's just taking a long time. Yeah, it looks a little sleepy, doesn't it? Carrot forward. There it goes. Nightbot is easing into the day. Okay. Headphones. Perfect. So we've got our arrows, we have our play button, we have our headphones, we need a search icon. And then I think all we need are social media. Icons. I wish that Ionicons had like quotes. But you know what? I might, because sometimes we use the HTML characters for those quotes. I don't love them though. I search. They don't really have punctuation. Maybe. Let's look here. So I do have the Font Awesome free pack. Quotes. Oh my God, where are the freaking cues? Here they are. Okay. What's the difference? One's alt. Well, we'll grab these for now. So I think we need the right, left. We need the left. I think they're pointing in the wrong direction. No, they're in the right direction. Okay. Okay. So that's that. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. So I think we just need, I'm going to do GitHub, X, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram. Okay, is it just me? I thought that they had X. Brands. Hang on, I'm just going to grab it. I swear they had it the last time I did this. And Illusion says those rsync commands to transfer data must use hashes and SSL certificate signatures. I'm not sure what that means. I wrote the rsync command to work exactly. I mean, it works exactly the way I wrote it. So I don't need those things on my end to use rsync. It works exactly the way I wrote it. So let's see, what was I doing? Okay. X. Oh. I have 3 screens. How is this not enough? How is this not enough screens? Okay, there we go. Now I have the X icon. And okay. So YouTube. And Illusion says, so SSL certificate signatures as well. Yeah, it isn't needed, but you can add them to it. So, yeah, I don't need them when I do it. So I don't know why you would need the SSL certificate signatures in order to rsync from a local to a remote environment. I'm not sure. I've never needed that to rsync from local to remote. SSL is exclusively on the remote environment. It doesn't have anything to do with moving the data from one environment to another. So that's my experience. So if you have a different experience, I believe you. My experience is different. But also, thank you for the comment, because I'm obviously going to do a little bit of research on that. Okay, what do we have? Where is my... Okay, here we go. So I have GitHub, Pinterest, YouTube, X. I think I just need Instagram. Okay, so now I'm kind of curious. So let's just ask. My friend that I love to hate, ChatGPT, who is so helpful and freely gives me information, and then at the same time occasionally does me dirty. So by leaving things out, like rsync doesn't work on Windows. So in order to rsync from my Mac to remote environment, do I need hashes and SSL certificate signatures? I've never needed them in the past. No, you don't need hashes or SSL certificates to use rsync from your Mac to a remote server. What you do need, SSH access to the remote server. Yes, rsync installed. A valid host name or IP for the remote environment. That's it. rsync connects over SSH, and SSH handles the encryption and authentication for you. There's no need to manually manage SSL, TLS certificates, fingerprints, or hashes beyond the normal SSH trust model. When you might see hashes or warning, the first time you connect, SSH will ask if you trust the host and store its fingerprint in the known hosts. And we actually ran into that last weekend as part of the project. That fingerprint is shown as a hash, but it's not something you generate or manage manually. SSH handles it for you automatically, and then you just answer yes, because you're always going to get that question the first time. The first time that you log in. So OpenSSH is what you meant. OpenSSH, yes. Yep, and we install OpenSSH. So we did the DigitalOcean one-click install for LAMP, which includes SSH. So we are using SSH, yes. Thank you, but thank you for asking or putting this in the chat, because I've never in my entire career, I've never sat down and like talked about this with other people. It's just something that I've been doing myself. I've never like had a conversation with anybody about SSH or hashes or SSL certificates. So this is great. You guys are like bringing things up, and we're like working all this out in real time. I love it. So that fingerprint is shown as a hash. Okay, in short, you only need your SSH key pair and a reachable remote host. You don't need to deal with certificate signatures, SSL certs, or manual hash verification unless you're doing something highly customized, like rsync over HTTPS, which is rare. Okay, so this is good. I'm glad we're on the same page, and I know now what you're talking about. So, yay. Yay technology. Okay. All right. Well, let's get the party started here. Index.html, and I'm not going to start a CSS file yet. We don't need CSS. My process is that we create all of the HTML first. I think HTML is incredibly important. It sort of sets the structure for what your mobile view is going to look like. And I think it deserves attention. It deserves a dedicated amount of attention to write all of your HTML first before you even think about styling or JavaScript or anything. So, with that being said, we have this top banner. So I'm seeing, well, normally I would say 2 sections. Maybe it would be better to look at this. I am not going to include these social media icons. I'm just going to include these links up there. So we'll just do some HTML. And this is the ink grid layout. And we'll start with a header with a class of header, main with a class of main, and footer with a class of footer. So in our header, I'm just gonna do a div. And we'll call this the top banner. And these would be links. So I'm gonna give this navigation. We'll do nav with the class of top navigation. And then we'll do an unordered list, and we'll call this what do I want to call it? Top banner, top navigation, top nav. And look at me with the Emmet. I get comments on my videos specifically about my use of shortcuts or shorthands, or not using shorthand. Specifically about that. So yeah, so there's that. Extras, sign in and register. One word or 2 words? 2 words. And register. And hold for just 1 moment. Hold, please. Okay. And then I'm just gonna do that as an H1. It's a block level element. It can be on its own. So we'll call it the primary. Heading, I'm just gonna call it ink for now. I think that I will make an SVG, eventually. For now, that is fine. And then we'll do nav. The next container is going to be, oh, actually, it can't just be nav. It has to be like a div because we also have our search. And I'm not going to build out a search drawer. I'm just going to build an input with a submit button. So we actually are going to want to do div, and we'll call this the nav container. And then we'll do nav with class of navigation. And then this will be a UL with the class of main nav. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this will be an LI with an anchor element times 8. And I'm just going to put in hashtags. Okay. Pages, lifestyle, food. Pages, lifestyle, food. Music, about me, contact me, features. Music, about me, contact me, features. And then we also need to make sure that we are including our buttons. We have to put in buttons for mobile. So I'm going to do a button with a class of open button. I'm also going to give it a class of menu button. And then we need an ARIA label, open menu. We need ARIA expanded, which by default is false, but we will write JavaScript to change that to true when the mobile nav is open. And then we need ARIA controls, nav menu. And then we have to give the nav element an ID of nav menu. The button and the nav element are sibling elements. So we need to tell screen readers, hey, this button controls this item. That's what the ARIA controls are for. And then we need our, oh, we didn't grab our menu right here. And here's our close icon. And I always make sure that my SVGs are ARIA hidden true. Whoops, it's not even close to how you spell that. And I always take out the stroke current color for styling. So there's our button. Now we need a close button. And this is, oh, and we also need a type. Type equals button. So our close button is going to be button close with a class of close button. But I'm also going to add menu button, and that's for when we write our JavaScript. And we need an ARIA label close menu. And then we'll say type equals button. We don't need ARIA expanded because the button is inside the element that is being expanded. We don't need ARIA controls because the button is inside of the element that's being controlled. We only need that on the sibling element that comes immediately before the element, the nav element. So this is our header. Now we need a search. So I'm going to say form with a class of form. And for the action, I'm just going to do a hash because it's not really going to be a working form. We're not really building search. We're just building the UI. So we have a form, and then we're going to have a label with a class of access hidden. And this will be for, well, here we'll say for search. And then we'll say search the site. And then we'll do an input with the type of search. This doesn't need a class because I can style this based on the type attribute. And then we do need an ID of search. So the label is associated with the input. And then we'll do a placeholder search dot dot dot. And then I'm going to do a button with a type of, is it submit or search? Yeah, it's submit. And we'll do an ARIA label also because there won't be text, there will be an icon. So we'll do an ARIA label, search the site. I'll give this a class of submit because we're going to need some unique styles probably, most likely. Here is our search outline, our SVG, and we'll make sure that this is ARIA hidden true so it doesn't get read out to the screen reader. We just want the ARIA label on the button to get read out. And then I'm going to take out the stroke current color. I'm just going to take out the value, not the attribute, and that's going to make styling your SVGs a lot easier. So we have our label, our input. The label is going to be hidden with some CSS and a class called access hidden, but the label is for, and it's screen reader friendly CSS. It will be hidden, so it still gets read out. And then since we're not putting our input inside the label, it's we have the for and the ID, so they're associated. And then we have a button with a type submit, although you could leave type submit out, and as long as it's inside the form element, it will still submit by default, but we're going to include it because it is the correct thing to do. And then this button has an ARIA label of search the site, all within a form element. And yeah, I think this is it. I think that's it for our header. So we can dig into the main. So let's just collapse this. And Illusion says, nice. Thank you, Illusion. Thank you. Okay. A little bit about myself. I'm not going to read this out because I read it earlier and it's kind of goofy. So we're just going to use lorem ipsum. What are we going to call this? I guess this is our hero section. We can call it a hero. And then this would be a little bit about myself would be like an H2. Ink is our H1. So we can put this in a section. And then this will be an H2. Read more is a link that is styled like a button. That's completely fine. But it is a link, not a button. Buttons are action. Links are navigation. So we'll say section with the class of hero. And then I think we do want this to be inside of a container. So we'll have to do like a div with a class of wrap. That will be for styling. And then we want a figure with for an image, figure with a class of figure. And I didn't prep any images. Let me just go grab one image quickly that we can at least use for writing our HTML. Let's see here. Can be anything. Can be anything. Okay. So I just grabbed an image from Unsplash. I think I can, there it is. We love cheese and we love fruit. So, and we'll say cheese and fruit on a platter. Okay, so that's our image inside of a figure tag. And then we're going to do, this is where our H2 is going to be. So this will be, we'll just say div.content H2 with a class of secondary heading. A little bit about myself. And then we have 2 paragraphs and a button. Oh, too much. And then I'm going to do a paragraph tag with an anchor link. And we'll give this a class of button. And then we'll write CSS. So you can just add that class to any link or any button. And it will just look like a button. Read more. Just like that. All right, there's our hero. Now the fun part, the grid. So we've got 1, 2, 3, got 9 items. And we don't have a heading for this next section. I'm going to treat the headings for these individual cards as H3s. And then the cards will all be inside articles. But it will be a div, not a section, because there isn't a heading specific to the section. So I'm going to say div grid. And the other thing I'm noticing here, whoops, is that it's full width. So it's going to take up the full width of the container. We'll have to see how that looks. When we're styling, if we don't like that, or, you know, if we, well, I mean, so the hero and this grid container align. We'll have to see how that looks if we want to contain this, or if we're once we start styling, if we're comfy letting this go all the way to the edges. It probably look fine on a laptop. I'm on a big monitor. It usually looks weird on a big monitor. I have to rein that in. So we'll go with this for now and see how it turns out. We'll see how things shake out once we actually do the styling. So for now, I'm just going to do a grid, and then we'll do article with a class of card. Oops. And then we have an image. So I'm just going to do images for now. And then we're going to come back. I didn't get any video. I didn't get any videos ready. And also, should I grab some more images? I mean, I've got more images. I probably should grab some more images. Yeah, let me grab a couple more images. Might as well. I've got them. I've got plenty of images. So They're images that you've seen before, but that's okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Don't sass me, Malik. Don't sass me. There's no board. I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm obviously glad it worked out that way. Okay. And of course I'm kidding. You can sass me all you want. Doesn't bother me in the least. All right, so I put a variety of images here in this folder. So let's just, that's not the header in the hero. So let's replace this. Oops. There we go. No. No, we couldn't. No, we couldn't. I really don't like border radius. Malik likes border radius, and I get actually asked a lot to give things border radius. There's some things that I do, like sometimes, you know, buttons and things like that, creative freedom and all that. No. You can border radius your designs all you want. There's just something about it I don't love. I used to. Sometimes I do it, but there's just something about it I don't love. So that's just me. I don't know. Tastes change. So, okay. So we have a card with, this would be like a div right here. This would kind of be like a category, right? And then this would be an H3. And then this is going to be a time element. And then which is a inline by default. And then we'll do a span for this. But these together will have to live inside a div. So a div that's block level, and then a time that is inline, and a span that's inline is the way to handle that. So, okay, well, that's fine. Sometimes I like border radius. I don't know, taste change, you know what I mean? Taste change. But I want everybody to do what makes them happy. So, okay, so div and then H3. I'm going to do div with the class of category. H3 with a class of tertiary heading. Being your true self. And then I'm going to do div with a class of time comments. And then we're going to do the time element with the date time. So this would be, well, I'm going to do today's date. So 2025 11/01. November 1st, 2025. And then I'm going to do a span, 3 comments. Is it capital or lower? Lower. 3 comments, and then we need like an open bullet. HTML characters, symbols. Well, I really need just a bullet. No open bullets. HTML open bullet point. Not a list. I have a feeling there isn't. Okay, we'll just do a regular bullet point. Or should we do the character and bull? Wait, were there options here? Hang on. Okay, we'll just keep it simple. And then we're going to need a figure, the class of figure, an image, and what is this image? What is that? A cafe. Interior of a cafe. And then I think that this information is going to need, oh, does it need to be in a div though? Because I feel like the article is the contain, no, it, and this will be above it. Yeah, I think this does need to be in a container. So we'll say div card content. Yeah. So for the sake of expediency, I'm going to copy this and then we're going to go back in and fill in the additional. We're going to add markup for the slider and fill things in. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for the second item, this is actually going to be a slider. So here's the first item. And I'm going to put a note here that just says slider. And then we know in order to be a slider, it is, well, it's helpful for me at least to make it an unordered list. And then we'll do a list item with the class of slide. And then we'll make another unordered list for our buttons. So we'll say slider controls. And then we'll do an li. And we'll just call it slider button. And then we'll do a button with a class of previous, and we'll do an ARIA label. Previous slide. We'll do type button. Type equals button. And then grab our SVG, chevron back. And I'm going to take out this inline current color, but we'll leave the attribute here. And then I'm going to say ARIA hidden true. And Anike is here. I'm late. What are we doing? And I see that Malik answered that question. Thank you. Start of a new project. And Pluspoint is here. Welcome, Pluspoint. You can install ChatGPT in VS Code. It will suggest code for you. Yes, I use GitHub Copilot once in a while. I actually don't need or use ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot when I'm writing HTML or CSS. I prefer to do it myself. So, but I do use GitHub Copilot when I'm writing JavaScript because that is often what I need help with. For this though, I prefer to do it myself. I like understanding the process. I like understanding the accessibility, and I like making those decisions myself. I don't want AI to do it for me. That is just my preference. And Ani K says there's a slider in one of these cards. So yes, hopefully Anike, you can see that that's what we're building here now. I have a feeling that you noticed that. So, Pluspoint, thank you for your comment. Hopefully that makes sense. I just prefer to do it myself. So I'm old-fashioned. I've been doing this for 12, almost 13 years, and I just enjoy the process. I like help when I accept help when I ask for help when I need help, if that makes sense. So, okay, so that was our previous button. Now we need our next button. Slider button. And I'm going to do a button. Class previous, class of next. I think this is also going to need its own class. I have a feeling, but I don't know. And let's make sure that we also have a type button and an ARIA label. And here's our forward SVG. I'm going to add an ARIA hidden true. And I'm going to take out current color, but leave the stroke attribute in. That is going to be extremely helpful for styling. If you need to set colors or style with CSS, you will need to remove those inline color, not the entire attribute, just the values. So, okay. So we have type equals button. We've got class, previous button. Oh, we should also do previous and previous button. Really, these should be the same. Slider, we're going to need a class here. I know I'm going to need to target that. Oh, and Plus Point said, this is a nice compliment. Plus Point says, I've been watching your live for a while and got addicted to your thinking style. Sorry for not tapping the subscribe button earlier, but I did it today. Well, apology not necessary. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who subscribes. I'm happy to earn the sub. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. So, and yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that it's another of, you're not the first person to say that they like to see how I think through things. I found when I was learning development, that was the most important thing for me, not to watch a really like highly polished tutorial. I mean, those things are helpful and they're important. They introduce you to new topics. So from that perspective, it's good. But what really helped me learn development was watching somebody think through the process and hearing them talk out loud about how they solved problems or just made decisions. That really helped me. And so I wanted to do the same thing. I felt like it could be helpful for new developers to hear somebody with experience still like sit and have to think through something or figure out how to make a decision about something. So, and Rita says, thanks for being here weekly. Well, you're very welcome, Rita. I wouldn't be where else would I be? I got nothing else going on. Trust me. Where else would I be? I got nothing. This is exactly where I want to be. So I'm happy. I am happy to oblige. It's win-win. It's win-win-win for all of us. So, okay, so we've got previous and next. I do need these. The whole point of a second class here is that these are the same. So slider button, I shouldn't be spending this much time making this decision, that's for sure. We'll just say arrow button. The whole point of having these extra classes here is that I can target them together and not need separate classes. So, okay. Type button, class next, arrow button, ARIA label next slide. Type button, class previous, arrow button, ARIA label previous slide. There it is. There's our slider. Okay, what's next? So I'm not going to worry about this audio file and this video right now because I didn't prep anything. So I don't have anything to go in here yet. So let's do that. Well, I'm going to need to do it tomorrow. Yeah, I can prep that for tomorrow. Yeah, I can prep that for tomorrow. That's not that big of a deal. So I'll make sure that I have an audio file and a video file ready to go tomorrow, and we will put these in there and make sure that we have the correct markup. But for now, we can at least get our SVGs in here. So let's do that. So what is that? That's slides 4 and 5. Or cards 4 and 5. So here's 3, here's 4. Audio, we'll call it audio player. And I'm just going to put, do we want that to be inside the figure? I don't remember. Probably. So we'll need the image. Well, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to put in the SVG, and then tomorrow we'll make sure that we have the correct markup once I have those files ready to go, once I have an audio file and a video file ready to go. So we're just going to put the SVG in for now and not worry about it. We need the headset. And I'll make sure this is ARIA hidden true. And Ani says, I thought the slider looked bigger other than bigger. I thought slider looks bigger than other. I notice now. Okay. Yeah. And the other thing is, we're going to end this day setting up the GitHub repo. I will make sure that we'll make a screenshot of this PNG. So you guys on your end, if you want to go look at this screenshot, I can't include the Photoshop file, but I can make a screenshot, a PNG for you guys if you want to look at it. So, and Plus Point says, can I know where you are learning web development from? Can you please suggest the best resources? So my learning is mostly project based. From the moment I started learning HTML and CSS, I had ideas of things that I wanted to build. So with hardly any knowledge at all, oh, Anike, it's okay. Don't no apology. Just give me a moment sometimes to understand the question. So no apology necessary. So communication is difficult in chat because I'm doing all the talking and you guys have to get your ideas across in the written word. And if English isn't your first language, believe me, I understand. So you don't need to apologize for that. But back to this question. From the moment I started learning, I started building projects because I just had ideas of things that I wanted to build. So with hardly any knowledge at all, I just started building things. And then I would find myself in situations where I just didn't know how to do something. So I just Googled. I read documentation. I watched YouTube videos. I did do some tutorials. I can't recommend any of the tutorials that I took in the early part of my career because that was like 15 years ago. I started learning HTML and CSS and JavaScript in 2009 and 2010. So 15 years ago. And those tutorials, not only do they not exist anymore, but even if they did, I wouldn't point you to them because they're so old. I would say that if you want to take tutorials to learn like basic HTML and CSS, I would definitely recommend somebody like Dave Gray, who I think is a great teacher. He's calm and patient and has a great teaching style. My best advice, though, hands down, is you will learn more if you do project-based learning. Tutorials are for specific concepts, to get introduced to specific concepts or ideas. Same with courses. And really, tutorials maybe are good to answer specific questions about things, but the real learning comes from projects. So my best advice is come up with an idea and just start building it. And you will just run into things as you're working. New situations will present themselves. You'll realize that you want to do a thing that you don't know how to do, and you'll start Googling it, or you'll ask ChatGPT for help. And that's the best way to learn. That is my absolute best advice. And that's what I try to model on my channel. That's why every weekend I just build out these UIs, because I think that, and I don't make courses and I don't really make tutorials because I think that well, first of all, YouTube is so saturated with courses and tutorials, it's impossible to compete with. And I don't see very many people doing what I'm doing. So, and I also happen to think that project-based learning is better than courses and tutorials. Not that those things don't have a place. I know I'm repeating myself here, but the best way to learn is projects. That is my best advice. So even if you think that you need to know something in order to jump into a project, I'm here to tell you, you don't need to know anything in order to jump into a project. You just have to have a desire to learn. And the other reason I don't use frameworks and compilers and libraries is because I want to clear all that clutter out of the way for you. I don't want you to get hung up on which framework or library that you should be using, because in order to build a UI, all you need is index.html, style.css, and script.js. You need the native things that the browser reads. And I want people to get easy wins. I want you to have easy wins in the browser to get you excited and to get you seeing your work instantly. And then let the natural organic process of building projects be your teacher. So, but thinking like a developer comes with time and experience. Oh yes, years. I've been doing that. Well, I mean, I started learning 15 years ago. I've been working as a developer for 12 years, about 12 and a half years. And yes, it takes years. It takes years to think like a developer. But you're not ever going to build that muscle or learn how to do the thinking if you're not doing the thinking yourself. And the best way to figure out how to think like a developer is to do the work of a developer. So start building projects. That is my best advice. And Malik says, I do a lot of project-based learning. I am improving slowly but surely. I disagree, Malik. I think you are improving rapidly. So I've known Malik now for a few months. Malik's been a mod. I think Malik found me this spring. He's been a mod on the channel for several months. We chat several times a week. He's asked me to look at his work and give him feedback, and I see rapid improvement. So that's my only disagreement with this statement. You are improving quickly, my friend. Trust me, you're doing really well. So the only difference between me and you guys is experience. Literally, that's it. I just have more experience. So the more you do it, the better you're going to get. Trust me. Trust me. So, okay. So here's our headphones. Let's go ahead and stick our play button in here. And this will be video player. And I'm just going to pop our SVG in here till we get our video file. Caret forward is our play button. And I'm going to say, oops, aria hidden true. And I don't see any inline styles here. So, all right, so we're going to revisit the audio player and the video player and the slider. We will revisit those items. All right, what's next? Well, you're welcome. You are welcome. And Ani says, because there is similarity in problems and differences, but to notice all this and you think needs years. I mean, it doesn't need as long as you think it does. It doesn't need, I'm reading this in a way that makes me think that you think it's going to take years. It's going to happen quicker than you think. You really just need practice. So, because trust me, I mean, I've been doing this for, I've been doing this for 12 and a half years. I mean, I've had a running commentary going in my head, though, almost since the beginning. I mean, I shudder to think where I'd be right now if I had started, if I had the foresight to start a YouTube channel even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, how much further along I'd be on my YouTube journey right now. Because I've had this running commentary going in my head every time I'm working, almost since the beginning. So it's gotten better over time. I'm better at it. But even in the last year, even in the 15 months since I started on YouTube, my skills are dramatically better because as a developer at my old job, I spent so little time doing actual development work. And honestly, a lot of the development work that I did wasn't even really front end. I was doing a lot of work in this custom CMS we had. I was doing a lot of this programming language called Velocity, which is based on Java. And I didn't enjoy it or love it, but it was part of the job. And that's where I spent a lot of my time. And then towards the end, I was doing a lot more with Vue. I did spend several years building a lot of Vue apps, and I did enjoy that. But what I really like doing is building UIs, HTML and CSS. Like, this is my real strength, and this is what I like doing the most. But I was wildly out of practice, like really out of practice. Like, if you ever go back and watch some of my old videos, my decision making was really bad. I was all over the place, totally inconsistent. I wasn't doing a good job at accessibility. And now that I'm here every weekend doing these live streams and building UI after UI after UI, I have nailed down so many systems and processes that I should have figured out years ago, but I wasn't practicing enough. So trust me, it's not going to take as long as you think it is. It really just takes a lot of consistent practice, and you're going to start to develop that running commentary like I have a lot sooner than you think. So, and Plus Point says, how many programming languages do you know? Well, mostly HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I do have a software engineering degree, so I've learned Java and Python. I don't particularly enjoy Java, but I find object-oriented programming to be very challenging. I like Python. I use Python for a lot of web scraping, so I enjoy Python. JavaScript is definitely a little more challenging for me. HTML and CSS are my kind of my vanilla go-tos. I've been a Sass user for years. I've never used React. I've worked on a handful of Angular apps. I've built 2 full stack Angular apps myself. Pretty handy with Express. I worked with Vue.js for 7 years at my last job. I started my career as a WordPress developer, so I have a fair bit of WordPress experience. And Anike says, depending on the human mind, maybe. I think it depends on the amount of practice. I think you get out of it what you put into it. So I'm trying to remove the blockers that I feel like you might have. And so you tell me if I'm misinterpreting some of your comments, Ani. I don't think I don't think it takes as long as you think it does. I think it just takes consistent practice, and you will develop the running dialogue. That is my opinion. That is my experience. So that's just my opinion. So, and Malik says, I have seen some WordPress development jobs, and I plan to learn React and WordPress at least somewhat. Yeah, I don't do WordPress anymore. I personally don't care for it. It's not my jam. But I'm glad that I have the WordPress experience that I have, because I learned a lot. I learned about databases. I'm pretty comfortable with MySQL. So it gave me a good foundation. I can build WordPress themes. I love PHP. I think PHP is great because you can do a lot of templating with static websites. LAMP stacks, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP are as basic and vanilla as they get, but they are solid and sturdy, and they will never let you down. So from that perspective, WordPress is a great education for me in web development, at least. So, and Anike says, but the clients trust frameworks more than vanilla. Why? Well, that has not been my experience. Trust is an interesting word. I've never once had a client tell me that they trust a framework more than vanilla. So, well, for your average freelancing client, they don't have a clue what coding languages you're using. So my freelancing clients, the small businesses, the reason they hire me is because they trust my judgment and they trust how I build things. And I've never once had a client say that they did or didn't trust vanilla. So if your clients are like organizations that are contracting with you, I mean, they're probably just deeply enmeshed in a particular framework, and that's why they want to keep using it. And I can understand that. I am not anti-framework, not at all. I understand why they exist. I understand why organizations use them. I'm not anti-framework at all. I chose to do vanilla for my channel, first of all, because I wanted to niche down and I didn't see other people doing what I was doing. And it worked because the reaction that I get from people who are like, well, why aren't you using frameworks and libraries? Like, so that to me is like, yes, not hardly anybody else is really doing this, right? And also, I just enjoy it. I like vanilla. And my experience has been a little bit different, that right now front end is really kind of bloated with so many frameworks, so many libraries, so many compilers, package managers, nodes, so many ways to do things. Some organizations want simple vanilla to deploy to a simple server because it's so much easier to maintain. So my experience has been a little bit different from that front. So, and Anike says, it does not take a long time with me. I got used to it, and thanks for your efforts in those lives. Well, you're welcome. So I'm glad we could talk it out. I always like to hear what other people are thinking or experiencing. So if you have clients telling you that they don't trust vanilla, that makes no sense to me. Also, let's not forget the fact that when you build in a framework, it gets compiled into ES5. Does the browser read ES6 even at this point? The last time I checked, it didn't. So browsers don't read React. They don't read Angular. They don't read Vue. They read vanilla JavaScript. That's why you need Node. That's why you need a compiler. It compiles everything into ES5. That's what the browser reads. So if I had a client come to me and say, I don't trust vanilla, you need to use a framework, I would point that out to them. But if they also come to me and they just say, you know what, we're a React organization, we prefer to use React in all of our projects, like, say no more. I get it. You've made that decision. So, okay, there's that. All right, what's next? So we do have a load more button. I'll include this button just for the sake of the UI, but it's not really going to load anything else, but that's fine. So we're inside our grid. I don't have clients yet, but the places where I was learning development, I heard these talks. Well, that is unfortunate. People, I don't know, I would, I am, you're going to be shocked to hear this, but I am the type of person who happily inserts herself into a conversation that she wasn't invited to participate in. If I heard people saying that, I would readily point out to them how the browser actually works and what it actually reads. So I think I'm making some assumptions now that those were conversations by a bunch of dev bros who don't know what they're talking about. So we're opinionated on this channel. There's nothing wrong with a framework or a library, but saying things like, I don't trust vanilla, okay, then you obviously don't understand how the internet works. So I know that's a little sassy, but okay, let's put in a button. Yeah, it would be a button if it actually loaded more. Let's do type button, load more. And I think we are going to need a wrapper around this. So we'll do div wrap, because that, if we are styling that with grid, that button can't be inside that wrapper. So, okay, what's next? So we have, I feel like this is all the footer. All of this goes in the footer. Or does it? Yeah, we can put that all in the footer. Why not? So then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Our footer has 4 parts. So we'll do the, we have my story, latest tweets, and recent comments. So this is like, and we do, these would be like, I feel like these would be H3s, right? So we'll do a div with a class of, we can just call them columns. And then these would be articles. Article with a class of item. Whoops. H3. Tertiary heading. And Anike is saying mixed column and row flexbox. Maybe. No, oh no, I'm just using a class of column. No, I just, we can say items. How about that? That's a good point. We shouldn't mix up our classes with actual styles. That's confusing. So that's good. Point. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. My story. And then we would have a figure, the class of figure, an image, what is that? Ooh, a glass of wine. And then we just have some paragraph text. Article with class of item. H3. Tertiary heading. Latest, we'll say latest posts. And then these would be, we'll do divs. So this would be a div, the class of post, and we've got an icon on the left, and then these, so these would be in a separate container. So we'll do a div with a, well, we could, no, it needs to be a div because I'm going to need a div for some styling. So we'll say div with class of icon. And we'll get our X icon. Let's see here. Take this out. And we'll make this aria hidden, true. And then we'll do a div with the class of, so the parent container is post icon. We'll call this the post item. And then this would probably be, we would probably want to do a time element, right? This could be paragraph. And then I think this would be a link. So paragraph, link, paragraph. I think all three of these could be paragraph text. And then this would be, although we could just make the time element display block. Well, I can't use an H6 because I haven't used an H4 or an H5. So in order to use an H6, you have to have a natural template hierarchy. So that is not considered accessible or SEO friendly, in my opinion, to use an H6. And I also don't think this should be an H6. To me, semantically, that's not correct. And so these titles are H3s, and I don't see myself going any deeper than an H3. And I don't consider these headings. I would say this is probably a link. So I'm going to do paragraph tags with the time element here. So I'm going to do paragraph with an anchor link, and then we'll add these links later. I'm going to put my own at and then let's look up the date time. Is there a different date time format? 1 day ago. Let's see here. MDN time element. A valid duration. You know, we can just put the date and time. How you display it, I don't think matters. Am I overthinking this? Year, week, valid global date and time string. Any combination of a valid local date and time string followed by a valid time zone offset. If we're just counting days, valid time string, valid yearless date string, valid date string, valid month string. You know what? We're just going to put the date like we have been, and then what the value is would still align with the actual date, right? And I did this wrong. So this is supposed to have dashes. We love SEO friendly code around here, people. We also secretly love border radius sometimes. Sometimes. And Anike says, I thought the name of tagging will have some intention in structure. Yeah, like we could use H6 as a class. To me, for me and my style, that's not semantic. But an H6 tag, you can't use an H6 if you haven't already used an H4 and an H5, and we're only as deep as H3. So that's why I wouldn't use an H6. I don't think that's the correct template hierarchy, in my opinion. So we're just going to put the date, 2025. Well, if it was one day ago, that was October 31st, right? Okay, so here's our post. So we've got post, post, and post. First article, second article, okay. Article, item. What else do we, this is going to be very similar. Whoops. So H3, tertiary heading, recent comments, I mean, I feel like we can maybe follow this. Well, but this is going to be off to the side. So this will be its own container. This will be a figure and an image. And then this paragraph will need to have, can you have a div tags inside of paragraph tags? We could just make this, well, we could just style it. You could just put the SVG inside the paragraph tags and style the SVG. But if you want it to be off to the side like this, I suppose you could do like text indent. So the way I would normally do this is div, paragraph, and then div. Yeah, that's the best way to go. That's the best way to go. Yeah, we'll get to the styling here. Hopefully we'll get to some styling tomorrow. So, and I try to keep the semantic stuff, I try to be as semantic as possible. So, and Malik says, yep, I used to make up custom tags for no reason. Now I understand the power of being semantic. That's funny. Yeah. So I try to be really intentional when I choose divs and spans, because spans by default are inline and divs by default are display block. And sometimes there's a good reason to use a span and then change the display property. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I also like to be intentional. And paragraph tags are very weird about what you can put inside paragraph tags. So it's no problem to put a span inside a paragraph tag, but can you put a div inside a paragraph tag? Can I put a div element inside a p element? No. Yeah. See, paragraph tags are very weird about what you can put. Paragraph tags only want, so no, a div element cannot be placed directly inside a p element according to the HTML specifications. The paragraph element is designed to contain phrasing content, which typically refers to inline elements and plain text. A div element, on the other hand, is a block level element. So p tags are very weird about using other block level elements inside. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a div with a class of comment. And we're going to start with our figure and our image first. So we'll do figure, the class of figure, and then we'll do image. Let's grab something here. Let's see. What is this? Blueberry quick bread. Okay, so that's on the left. Now we need a div for the comment content. So we'll do div comment content. And then I need, whoops. So this is going to be the name or the user. And that's going to be at the top of this container. So these are two containers. So I'm going to say div user, and the user will be Heidi. And then we're going to do div comment text. And then I need this to be, we can just do an SVG. We'll just do our SVG. Our quotes. Because we can change SVGs from display inline to display block. So here's our SVG. Aria hidden true. And then we need a div for these two things because they're going to have to be separate. Div, and I'm just going to say div text date. And then we'll do our paragraph with our comment. And then we'll do a paragraph with the time element. We'll use today's date. And then this will be 9 hours ago. 9 hours ago. Whoops. It's fussy, isn't it? It's fussy. And we have 3. Beautiful. All right, what's next? Let's collapse some of these. So those were our items. And so come back tomorrow. Well, I don't know if we're going to get to the styling of the footer by tomorrow, but at some point you will see, I like to put the time tag inside paragraph elements. So because a time element by default is display inline, and inline text-based elements, in my opinion, belong inside a paragraph tag. So I put the time tag inside the paragraph tag, and the paragraph tag is sort of that last line of block level elements. Anything that comes inside a paragraph tag should be display inline by default. So that's how I like to do it. So, and Bunny is here. Welcome, Bunny. Hello to you as well. Thank you for joining us. So hopefully, Anike, that makes sense. And well, it's probably going to be a couple of weeks before we get to the styling of this. I mean, we might get to the styling of this by next weekend. It depends on where we get by tomorrow. I know we're not going to be styling the footer tomorrow. So we're definitely going to be in the header and the navigation. It might be a couple of weeks before we style the footer, but trust me, if you want to see me put all that together, definitely come back. And obviously, I'm happy to have you here. So, okay. So these are this is like a social media nav bar. That's how I'm going to structure it. So I'm going to say nav with the class of social. And I'm going to give this an unordered list with a class of social nav. And we've got 5. So we'll do an li with an anchor times 5. And eventually I will add real URLs. Okay. So first, what do we have here? We'll do GitHub first. The HTML, it's tedious. It's tedious, but when you think about accessibility and SEO and how important it is to get things structured correctly, it deserves its own time. It deserves to have dedicated time to get the structure fully in place, in my opinion. It's how I learned it. But also, have you ever like done a section, styled it, done a section, styled it, done a section, styled it? I think it's easier if all of your HTML is done first. To me, that feels more efficient, in my opinion. So, okay. So we've got our SVG, we've got our link, and the text is going to come after the SVG right here. So I'm going to put the text, and we don't have to hide it this time. Whoops. Yeah, this will be easy to style, although do I need to have something around this SVG so I can make a circle? I'm going to have to put in, can I put a div inside of an ink? Oh, stop. Yes, it is perfectly valid to place a div element inside of an anchor element. I guess I knew that. Okay, good. So we're going to do div, and we'll just say icon. Have I used that class already? Yes. So we'll just say social. And I don't see any inline styles. Why are you letting me collapse that? Okay, doesn't like that. There we go. So we'll do div, the class of social icon. And next we want to do the YouTube icon. We'll do aria hidden true. I'll say YouTube. And then we'll do X. Div with a class of social icon. And we're going to take out the fill current color. We'll have to go through and check and make sure that we didn't miss any of those. True. X. Div with a class of social icon. And we'll do Pinterest. Aria hidden true. And then this is Instagram. Div with a class of social icon. We'll say aria hidden true. And Instagram. And that's that. Yeah. If we screwed anything up, we'll just fix it. It's fine. I think there is an icon tag, but I never use it. Is there an HTML element for icon? There is no dedicated HTML element named icon. Instead, icons are typically implemented in HTML using other elements and styling techniques. Yeah, I know Font Awesome likes to use I. I usually just use the SVG or a span or a div depending on how it needs to be styled. So if it's something that can be inline, I'll just use a span. Most often I'm using icons inside links or buttons, and those are sufficient wrappers for me. I'm always marking SVGs as access hidden. So I don't think that you need a tag specifically for the SVGs. Like if I'm hiding the SVG, I don't think semantically that you need a tag around the SVG, I think is what I'm getting at. And I think this is, I stands for italics. That's what I think this stands for, which now we use emphasis, EM. That's why I think that Font Awesome uses this. So there's that. But that's a good question. And Emilio is here. Welcome, Emilio. We are so happy to see you. I hope you are doing well. Emilio had a little stint in the hospital a couple of weeks ago. We're glad you're doing better. We're glad that you're back and you're feeling better. So I have always wondered when it comes to the header, main, footer tags, if I have a site that I feel does not need a footer, should I just leave it out? You know what? That is such a good question. I've actually asked that question too. When we did the front end mentor challenge last year, that design did not have a header. And I remember specifically asking ChatGPT, is it okay to leave out the header and the footer? So let's ask, is it okay to leave out the header or footer element if my design doesn't have one? Yes, it is okay to leave out the header and the footer elements if your design genuinely has no header or no footer content, as HTML is flexible and doesn't require them for a valid page. However, consider if you have content that could be placed in these semantic containers, even if it's just a heading for accessibility, as they provide a way to structure and describe your content for browsers and assistive technologies. So that's a good point. Even if it's just an H1 and you hide it on the page with screen reader friendly HTML. So I think that's a good question. No, I don't think this was the wrong idea at all. This is a good question. And I remember this from, I used to use Font Awesome. I used to use font libraries all the time. I'm basically all SVGs now. But I remember in my Font Awesome days, we used the I tag for, so that's what that reminded me of. So I don't think that's a bad question at all, or a wrong idea at all. So I love it, because if you guys ask me these questions, you know I'm going to look it up, right? I'm going to, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to look it up. We're going to learn together. So, and Emilio says, been lurking driving, so treating this as a podcast, phone flipped over, so I am safe. Nice. So, yeah. So there's that. Okay. So what's next? So now this is like our little pseudo Instagram grid. So we'll do, and again, there's no dedicated header. So this is just going to be a div. So we'll say div Instagram. I don't think we need a wrapper because we very clearly have a button that is positioned over top. So I'm not worried about that button. Not worried about that button getting, like being part of the flow of the grid. So, and we have different styles of buttons here. We have this style of button, we have this style of button, and we have this style of button. So that'll be fun if you enjoy styling buttons. Oh, but if this is follow me, it's not a button. It's an anchor. It's an anchor element. So for this, I am just going to do a good old anchor element. And I'm not going to bother putting it inside a paragraph tag because it's going to be positioned absolutely. So we'll do figure with the class of figure. And then image. And what is that? Cup of coffee. How many do we have here? 6. Oops. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think my assignment for tomorrow is that I need to get that audio file prepped, and I need to get a video prepped, and I need to replace the images and update the alt text, and I can definitely do that before tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, now we have our little footer container here. So we'll say div dot, what is that? We'll call it the copyright. Copyright statement. We have a back to top arrow, and we learned smooth native CSS smooth scrolling. So we'll go ahead and implement that. And then we've got a date, a copyright symbol. I'm going to leave out the all rights reserved, and I'm going to put my name. So we'll say, I think we can just do a plain old anchor element. And we'll just go top, and then we'll do a span with a class of access hidden, and we'll say back to top, but that won't be shown. It will be hidden with screen reader friendly text. And then let's grab like a double chevron up. And Ani says, is it a little circle in the middle at the bottom? Oh, so this is an @ sign. That's a good, I'm going to put a copyright sign there. So I'm going to say 2025 copyright. They put an @ symbol there. My name. I'm going to do 2025 copyright symbol, copyright word, and then my name. That's what I'm going to do. So just a little bigger. There. So here's our back to top. Oh, and we need an SVG. We don't really have like a double arrow. Maybe we want to use symbols for this. I know you're here someplace. So I think we can use, we are going to use this right here, and we will just twist it. We will turn it around. So I will put this in, this I'm going to put in a div. We'll say this is the top icon. Yeah. And then we can just style that. Okay. And then I'm going to say, again, I'm going to say a span with the class, or rather an ID of date, and we'll write a little snippet of JavaScript to get a dynamic date. And then I'm going to say, and copyright. Oh. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to put a link to my website and my name, because I usually link back to something. Try to do a little cross promotion, if you know what I mean. So we've got the date, the copyright symbol, the word copyright, and then a link with my name. Yeah. So And New York code. Sorry, New York code. Nightbot didn't like those messages. Use iconify. Let's see here. Iconify. So I is this an icon? Okay, open source vector icons. I like to use, if I can, I do like to use HTML characters, like native HTML characters. Where is it? Here it is. I like to use native HTML characters. So this is built right into the HTML spec. That's why I decided to use these. I try to look here first. My first choice is almost always SVGs, so I'm not locked into a framework. But I'll definitely bookmark Iconify. I've never heard of Iconify, so I'll definitely check these guys out. I usually use Ionicons, and I also have like the free version of the Font Awesome SVG library downloaded. But thank you for letting us know about that. And sorry that Nightbot spanked you there for a second. So hang on one second. And Malika's saying, I like using SVG viewer for my SVGs. Yeah, everybody, this is what I've noticed is that we all kind of love to have our little SVG source, right? SVG viewer. I've never heard of that either. Oh, look at that. Huh. I've never heard of these guys either. Double. Oh yeah, right here. And then you could just change the fill. Huh. I'll bookmark this as well. I also sometimes like to use the noun project. This is also a really good source for SVGs. If you're looking for something like an SVG that's a little more like an illustration, yeah. So maybe if you're looking for, if I was looking for knitting, yeah. So now we have SVGs that are a little more like an illustration if you need something like that. So there's also that. So, okay. I think we're done. Oh, and Ani K, you're asking a question where there is 2 arrows to the top. Yes, so this will be like a little half circle. This is going to be our back to top, and this will be absolutely positioned. So I put it here inside this section, inside this anchor tag, and then we'll also do, we'll do an ID up here, top. And then when we do our CSS, we will implement smooth scrolling. Let's get this committed and let's get our Git repo going. And then let's also get a screenshot. We'll also get a screenshot of the mockup so people can look at it if they would like to. Let's see here. Where is my... Do I have Git open? I don't think I started a Git repository yet. So I'm going to call this the, what did I name it? The ink grid layout. Seems like as good a name as any. Ink grid layout. Oh, and let's make sure that we have a get ignore. Let's rename that. I think that's all we need to ignore. And then let's take a screenshot of this. I think I can export this as a PNG. Projects. Screenshot. And there we go. Good. And now we'll say get init, get add, get commit, initial commit, and then and I will work on a README for this as well. And Amelia says, I accidentally forgot to back up my SVGs that I've been collecting this summer. It was so sad. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. What happened this summer? Or what happened this fall, rather? Did you get a new computer? Did you have a crash? What happened? So if anybody's interested in taking a look at this repo or the markup or anything like that, you are welcome to. I'll make sure that the description for tomorrow is updated and has everything updated. And we did it. We got all of this markup done in one day. This makes me so happy. We're a little over time. I try to keep it to about 2 hours or so. We're right at about 2.5 hours. Not too bad. Not too shabby. I got mine fixed and didn't back it up. Oh, you got your computer fixed and you didn't back it up. And I bet they wiped it, didn't they? And reinstalled your OS. Sorry to hear that. Oof. That's rough. But honestly, I mean, I think about all the things that I could lose on my computer, and if the worst that I lost was my SVGs, I would be in good shape, because makes me want to go do some more backups. So, wow, we did it. We got all of this markup done in one day, plus we talked about a whole bunch of deployment stuff, plus we had awesome engagement in the chat. Do me a favor, if you haven't liked the video yet, please go ahead and do so. Helps the algorithm, helps me get this pushed out to more people who might enjoy this type of content. I love the questions. I love the comments. Yeah, I just really, really enjoy doing this and hanging out with you guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. We're here every Saturday and Sunday, pretty much, like pretty consistently for the most part. We just hang out, we practice vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because we don't hate frameworks, we don't hate libraries, we just like the basics. So, and I think it's being overlooked right now in dev YouTube and dev culture in general. I think the basics, the vanilla stuff, is being overlooked. That's what the browser reads, and that's what ultimately gets compiled to the browser. I also think that as new developers, or even if you're just a new developer in an agency, I'm here to tell you, you're going to get handed a ton of legacy code. Not everything is a shiny new React app. You're going to get handed legacy code, spaghetti CSS files, and if you have a little understanding of the basics, it's going to help you a lot, in my opinion. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Please come back and hang out with me tomorrow. We're going to start styling, but we also need to get that audio and video file hooked up and figured out too. But we are going to start doing some styling as well. So have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Please say thank you to the mods in the chat. Emilio hopped on, and glad that you were able to hop on and hang out with us here for a little bit. Malik, here keeping things fast, fun, and friendly, just like we work at Target, because that's the motto at Target, fast, fun, and friendly. All right, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.